Hi, friends. It is Sarah. This is an episode I'm calling Light Up Life or Show Love. It's really about restoring limitlessness, but also, um, so it's for you, but it's also for just restoring your your awareness of your own energy. And it really translates to how you can be a good person, a good friend, a good parent. It's about being responsible with your energy and your mental state and tuning that to a sense of kindness, love, positivity, optimism. And in turn, that will support the environment around you. It'll catalyze better things in health and in mindset for others around you. Energy is a chain reaction. So, what we put out changes others. It also changes what comes your way. And you can think of yourself like a tuning fork. You resonate with the world and the world resonates with you. So we are being responsible and ethical in that way. As I go into this episode, I wanted to invite you to first bring to mind a time when you were light. And by that, I mean like how you felt, but also like a beam of light energy wise. Like, when was a time in your life when you were just lit up with joy and others could feel it? Maybe that was a time you were falling in love. Maybe that was a time you were so excited about something that was on the horizon. And just remember what that felt like. What did you appear like in your behavior and your habits and how you spoke, what you wore, all of the habits you had? Just revisit that time in your mind's eye. And think about at that time what you embodied. Like when you walked in the room, you would light up that room. Think about your laugh, your face, your expressions, the energy and how it ricocheted off of others. And so with that image, know that as we move through the world, encourage others to see something in themselves. Like we encourage them to live as a certain self with just how we live our own lives. And I want you to think about the people who are close to you in your life and know that you are infectious in a good way. So, as you move through the rest of the day, think about how you can catalyze more of this joy and love for other people that you care about, because they're going to give it right back to you unless they are struggling with something, which is what it is. But know that we can do so much good in just how we move through the world. I did want to recap that my last episode was about really being energetically one place at a time and not splitting what I would say your spiritual body is by multitasking. So this is kind of a continuation of that message, and that it's really a way to embody your own life and live life for yourself. This is not about, you know, being selfish. It's about embodying the best of yourself as you move through the world and being selfless with that energy and investing in the experience of others. So that includes just how you interact with the world, talking to strangers, lifting others up with your presence. When we feel uplifted, this is when we are helping other people remember that state. And I think, think about yourself. One time recently when you've had to be around somebody who was toxic or negative, or somebody who really just focuses on complaining, it changes the world to have to deal with a person like that. It makes it into a much different existence. Conversely, if you're around somebody who is positive, happy, complimentary, it changes everything. It changes your day. So this is just really a reminder for us to all get back there. Like that's a world we can create that exists right now. Um, I have one small note before I go into this episode, which has three parts. I don't have a full episode on this idea, but I did want to throw in here about a note about parenting. I am learning so much as I parent. And one thing that was top of mind that I was like, I'll throw it in this episode. I invite you, if you are a parent, to think about, instead of like the steps you need to take, thinking about, how do I want my kids to feel about themselves? Do we want them to fend, to feel small, to feel a desire to fight and protect? Or do we want them to feel capable and accountable? And I think about this a lot because my natural inclination is to be controlling and force things, to be like, no, 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 you have to do it this way. And that creates a child who wants to do the same thing. Like the child learns that and does the same thing. So I'm deliberately trying to focus more on helping them notice and recognize ability and accountability. And by doing that myself. So I'm constantly saying things like, I know you are a good kid and I know you didn't mean to do this. And I'm constantly also saying, I'm sorry. If I've done something that I'm not proud of, I'm constantly apologizing for my own behavior and then taking accountability for the thing I don't think was right. That's it. That's the only note I wanted to throw in here. I don't really do parenting episodes, but I had to throw that note in there just because it's kind of related to energy. It's like the energy we bestow others with. Moving on, this episode is really, really simply a gentle reminder to show love and to say all the things you would want to hear and be overly communicative with respect and accountability. So there are 3 parts, as I said, the what, the why, and the how, the tools. Part 1, the what. Super simple, becoming conscious in how we approach the ingredients of our life, like deliberately tuning toward what is actually the more rational mindset, which is coincidentally optimism, openness, wholeness, a feeling of there is plenty, being grounded, and therefore being uplifting in how we approach the world. Part 2, the why. Why? I wanted to start this section off with like a rhetorical question. How do you currently identify what story is steering the ship in your life? Like in your frame of mind, what is the story that is creating the rest of your life? It's kind of a difficult head scratcher of a question. Whatever story we are telling about the content of our lives very much creates the world. And by that, I mean, whatever mode of operation you are within at this moment is pretty much going to create the story of the day you live through. And to take a step back, like, what does that even mean? Who are you letting into your mind? Who and what are you giving power and importance to in terms of your happiness and what that relies on? Like, what are you allowing in your mind, in your rumination, in your thinking to have charge and to have dominance, if anything? This is really just a gentle reminder that rumination creates our felt experience. And whatever you are, if something came to mind when I asked those questions, whatever came up, know that when we can just step back from it and see it as an object, it's already lost the majority of its power. Just by stepping back from it and seeing it as optional, fluid, not us, but something that's occurring in our brain, it's already lost some power. So whatever you are struggling with in your life, know that in a good way, it is, to a certain extent, probably a large extent, something you are creating in your life as an issue. In other words, it doesn't have to be the thing that's making the pain. It's like, it's optional. And our story is what creates reality, not the thing itself. It's like our response to it. If you think about like Nelson Mandela, you think about the Dalai Lama, like you could not force the Dalai Lama to be like stressed about traffic. Like that response doesn't exist in that person. It's like the definition of Teflon. Whatever is going on inside a person, you can't take that state away from them. One important note that I wanted to call out, to embody this internally protected felt state doesn't mean we are just going to like swallow shit from other people or like take abusive behavior. It has nothing to do with that. I'm not saying like have gratitude anyway, even if somebody's like really, really hurting you in your life. Even the Dalai Lama, I recall reading a quote from him that was like, if there was a person who was killing people, I would have to kill that person so that he or she would not be killing other people. It wasn't like a blanket, non, violence type of perspective. It's just like, sometimes you have to take actions that protect your well-being or the well-being of other people. In other words, you have to take necessary actions in your life to create the life that will be beneficial to you. But what is optional is that second arrow of judgment, meaning that extra layer that we add to things that causes us usually the most of the pain. And that is the self-inflicted narrative around resisting something that is, or wishing something wasn't true, and not wanting something to be true and hating that it's true. So that's the part I'm inviting you to notice and let go of, because it's really about remembering when we accept what is and like really embrace our own powerlessness over that. It's like we're free. It's like all that the stuff doesn't have as much charge anymore. It just is. So that's the goal. I know it's sometimes easier than others, depending on the thing. So coming up in this tool section, it's really going to be a lot about getting back to a state of gratitude as like a moving meditation day to day in our lives. Because it's really easy to just go unconscious in all sorts of ways. One of which is just being, grouchy, complaining is in some ways it feels good because it gets us attention. It's really easy to just fall in that habit. So think about how amazing it feels to the world and to yourself when you are excited, uplifted, positive. So this is really just to get back to that state. So before I go into the tools, first, a brief word from our sponsors. Okay, part 3, the how, the tools. The first tool is called Wake and Be Great. This is just a gentle invitation tomorrow when you wake up, just to lie there and use that kind of fog of waking to meditate for a few minutes. And by that, I mean just lean into the blackness of your eyelids and just become the silent watcher. Be still, observe sounds, observe thoughts, don't attach to the thoughts. As long as it can last, let it last. Before you touch your phone, before you do anything, just lie there. All right, next tool. I am an innovator. This is my favorite tool in this episode. I invite you to journal about this or write it in your phone right now. It is a celebration of our own ability and our own power in our life. And so here are the prompts. What have I innovated in my life? I want you to look back on the last year and also the last 5 years and basically write about what have you created for yourself in your life? What didn't feel possible that you had an idea in your head and then you're like, I'm going to fucking do that thing. Embellish about it, write about it, think about the beginning of that thing, think about how awesome that thing is now in your life. Really like own that. That's pretty great. That thing you chose to do, you did it. That's the first prompt. Second prompt, now I want you to look forward. What are you innovating now? What are you a little bit like, should I do that thing? Am I going to do that? This is a thing I kind of want. Is that crazy? Is that way too far? I want you to look at the thing that feels a little terrifying that you're like, I mean, I kind of want to do that thing. It feels way out of reach from here, but I might do that thing. One of my favorite things I've seen recently was an interview with Bowie and David Bowie saying the best spot to be in is where in the process of creation where you are just your feet can't quite touch the bottom of the pool. Like you're floating a little bit outside of your safety zone. You're like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if this is working. Am I doing this right? Like, I don't think this makes sense. Is this crazy? That feeling is a good sign. So that's my first tool. Third tool, where is my center of gravity? I'm sneaking this in because it's like annoying, I think, as a tool to give this, but like I'm sneaking this in as a part 1 to this tool. I want you to do your gratitudes today. If you've neglected that for a long time, if you don't have a daily gratitude practice, Write what that means is I want you to write 3 things you're grateful for in the last 24 hours in your journal or on your phone right now. And also describe in detail one positive experience. So, like, relive that experience. And if you are feeling less than positive and less than shiny lately in your life, I also want you to do that for the remainder of the month. Okay, that was a little snuck in part of this tool. This tool is I want you to ask yourself, where is my center of gravity? Is it inside yourself or is it outside of yourself, out there? And by that, I mean, are you giving away the rights to your happiness to someone or something that is outside of you? And be gentle with your response to this one. I mean, the main goal is to just become aware. If we are fixated on something out of our control, outside of our being, that has like stolen your right to be satisfied and feel good about yourself. And so that might be for you some sort of milestone, some sort of cultural badge, some sort of idea, a concept, a socially created concept like a number on a scale, an age, what you are supposed to have done at a certain age, what success means, what a successful life looks like, all of these concepts, the opinion of another person, the happiness of another person. It could also be something like friction that is created in your life from something that needs to change, that has there's some sort of motivation that is being catalyzed for you to move in a new direction. And I would say, like, if that's the case, know that some friction in life is very positive in that it's giving us enough discomfort to catapult us into a certain destination. In either way, the goal here is to gently remind yourself that we can come back into that core energy of, I am all I need to be happy. I can come back home to myself and create a sense of inner peace. And for that to happen, I think sometimes we just have to ask, what do I need to do to validate myself and feel grounded and rewarded by my own initiatives? Like what would self-care look like for me today? And for me personally, that might mean first even just being like, hey, acknowledge self. Hey, me, sorry, I've neglected you. And like, what can I do to be nice to you today? So, like, what would be actions that are in service of self care? All right, that is that tool. Next tool is a goal setting exercise. And this is, I'm calling this and. Another one to do in your journal if that works for you. I wanted to invite you to write about something amazing and miraculous that has happened to you in your life. And this thing should allow you to recall the truth of limitlessness and God in quotes, whatever that means for you. Like, what is this ultimate thing? And it could be just a day that everything worked out. It could be a day where, like, what? That's not possible. Some experience, something where you're like, what? That is so nuts. That is so, there's like too much synchronicity for it to be logical, whatever it is. And then the second half of this tool is then I want you to remind yourself, if this, then what else? If this is true, what else is true? So really what we're trying to remind ourselves of is magic is possible and change happens instantly. Like portals of truth open instantly. And so how do we energetically remember this? Like our mentality and our own perception of limits has to match. Like returning to a sense of hope is key to us being rational in how we approach the world. So has something magical and otherworldly ever happened to you? If yes, if this is true, what else is true? Like, what has resonance? What has resonance in your past where you were like, whoa, fuck, that's nuts? And if all of this is resonating and not freaking you out, the last thing I would invite you to do is just set an intention now of openness and possibility. Today, I see the universe as open and positive in some way. And if it's something specific for you, maybe that sentence is, maybe fill in the blank thing will work out great. Maybe it's already working out great. Maybe I should have hope and optimism, and maybe everything will be totally different than I think it will be. All right. Next tool, I wanted to invite you to journal, another journal prompt about what you want. Just very light journal entry. What do you want? Top line, space, mental space, freedom, creative joy and freedom. And just write it down. Allow yourself to state it, because I think that kind of it's fluid and the words we choose change every couple of months. So just like check in and remember that everything flips on a dime. Never forget that everything in your life is a flow with your perception. Like your energy alters how you respond to all objective facts. And I believe change can happen instantly. It's like a portal that was always there. We just had to remember that it exists. And we have to remember to have a sense of hope, of like excitement and hope. Okay, cool. The next tool, what is your elephant in the room? I say this as like an invitation to just blurt it out. Like, I think if we allow ourselves to say something that's causing us to feel a little bit of worry or dread, we immediately feel relief because we have claimed the truth. Like, no matter what it is, what is your particular elephant in the room of your consciousness? Like, what's the hurdle? What's the fear? What's the thing that you're like working on that you haven't started working on that you're worried about working on? And know that, like, just saying it out loud, it just becomes more small, human, achievable. It's like a lot of this work we do on things that are also kind of scary and feel impossible. It can be very simple and the work can move mountains. It's just a lot of it is just us being comfortable saying something is true. Like so much of change is us getting like this far around something enough to say, I don't want to be that anymore, or I don't want this anymore, and I'm working my way out of it. That's a huge piece of change, and it's liberating. So I invite you to say that thing out loud. All right. Next tool is what I would call a gentle frame, like a reflection. When is it your body versus your brain? When is your body on a run versus your brain? I think a lot of the time, I know a lot of people struggle with anxiety and rumination. And when we get into that worry loop, it is a stage when your nervous system is trying to help you. It's like an unconscious response that we have to learn how to work with and hack and like teach ourselves how to work with it. You know, it's like there are the beginning stages, the middle stages, the end stages, and we have to kind of become experts on that. So before we get into that loop of worry and rumination and like going in a circle on the same fear, before we get there, I just want you to observe yourself moving forward and ask, what is the first warning sign that I am inching my nervous system toward being in that state? Because when you're already in that state, it's really hard to get out of it because your nervous system is saying, run, 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 get out of here. It's dangerous. Go, go, go. And you're therefore like so many things in your intelligent brain are offline and all you're fearing, all you're doing is living in the fear of like, help, help, help. I got to help myself. So before we even get there, we have to observe what is that little inkling that I'm on my path toward that thing. Is it I'm starting to feel a little twinkle of worry? What is the energy? Just become an expert on you in that area. And then when you notice that thing starting to occur, this is when we need to, what I would call, get on the level with ourselves. And we have to process the shit out of that thing. Like I do this in my journal, but I basically talk to myself like a therapist would talk to me. And I lay out all of the additional info surrounding that thing that is currently blocked from view. So what that means for me is all of the context around the thing that is causing me to feel a little bit of a twinkle of worry, all of the abilities I have around this thing that I'm like maybe not thinking through fully. Like it's not so ultimate, it's not so dark. I have this option, I have this option, I have this option. And then also any steps I need to take in order to enable myself to deal with that thing. So resources, conversations, steps that will make me feel more accountable to me. Like, oh, I'm really worried because I need to book this appointment in particular. Okay, cool. Next tool is called Hug the Fear. This is specific to goals and things that we want in our life. Claiming a goal is really scary because it means we are in danger. And by that, I mean, fuck, this is real. I am going to maybe get so hurt by this thing not working out, or maybe I'll fail at that thing. It's like immediately saying we want something that's new makes us feel, I am so scared of this thing happening. And so when you notice that and expect that response, know that fear is a good thing. It's a good sign. It's an activator because it means we are readying the energy needed for this future grand event. Like, I'm just asking you to reframe that feeling and greet it and think of it more as excitement. It's a part of excitement. And know that, like, all of us immediately have those controlling thoughts to get us back into like safety. I shouldn't do this because I'm too old. I shouldn't do this because it's too late. This is way more risky because of XYZ reasons. All of the things that our brain spouts out, that is what everybody does. But like, the fear is a good sign because it means you're getting ready to catapult into the place you need to be. So just mentally seeing beyond that risk fear impulse. All right, next tool, allowing influence. This is a reflection for you if you are a person who has always been very perfectionistic or controlling. I'm guessing you also have had trauma. This is a goal that I would offer up to you as you grow as an adult in, like, I would say, a more balanced, stable stage in your life. It's one that I've been working on as a goal. It's just the intention to open up our flexibility and possibility and new chambers of change. And think of yourself as um, you're like water. You're being changed all the time. There's this period of like safety building, I think, as a person who is like perfectionistic or controlling. There's a safety building stage where you really need to be black and white in order to create a sense of safety for yourself. If you have been through a lot of self-work and trauma, there's that chapter of your life where you're like, I need to create boundaries, and I'm just focused on boundaries. And then after that stage, if you have lived as a stable person for a long time, there's this other stage of growth which I would call allowing influence. And it's when you can soften and look at yourself and take other people's input about you. So this would mean, on a practical level, saying like, yeah, you're right, I'm going to work on that. Allowing another person to tell you how to change, allowing other things outside of you to change your own beliefs, being open and flexible first. And if I would say this is more true for people if you are in like a situation where you know you are safe and that the people that surround you mean you good. So if that's not true for you, ignore this tool. All right, next tool, it's okay to be in a winter. This is a reflection to ponder now or in your journal. And I think a lot of the time, if we're really burnt out, if we're really stressed, if we are angry at ourselves for not being super positive, super happy, super optimistic, we're like, why am I being dumb and I'm being stressed and not grateful? I think a nice way to reframe that is you might be in a winter stage. It's okay to be in a phase of your life, let's call it a season, where you really need to focus on rebirth, that stage of the cycle where you are regenerating the fertility of the soil. And if we feel like we're bereft, like there's something we have lost or we're fucking up because my life is not super fun and happy right now, it's like maybe you're in winter when all of that new soil is kind of reinvented. So think of it instead as a positive stage to move through that we can instead recognize and embrace and just ask, what is my soul needing at this time? Like, what will fertilize my soil? Is it rest? Is it no expectations of myself? Is it an embrace of all of the most primal, ingredients to feeling like a human being like warm sun, nature, water, all of the things. Just think about what could regenerate you at this stage of your life. And like, it's okay to be there. It's a necessary part of this full and complete loop that is output, creativity, energy, all of the improvised anything that is in your person. So take it for what it is. Okay, next tool, open a window or hope chamber. This is a kind of a part two to this winter tool in some ways. If you are feeling burnt out or angry or like you can't shake negativity as a setting, instead, I wanted to invite you to step back and just what I would call look for a way to change your relationship to what is. And in past episodes, I've called this opening up a window. In this, I'm going to call it like opening up the hope chamber. But it's really a way to like remember another truth, remember another version of reality. And sometimes we just need to try on somebody else's perception of the world. We have to open up a new window into seeing the world that is. We have to try on a completely different perspective and look at it from another person's life. And that is how we can get a head change, A lot of the time, if we can get into old settings and resume old cues that remind us of another time in our life when we were more optimistic, it's like we can remember the map back there. I would think of these as like sacred cues for us personally. So whatever those things were that you did at another time when you did feel like magic and optimism, reinforce them, repractice them. And in addition to that, open a window. By that, I mean visit a setting, a mindset, a way of thinking that is totally outside of the limits of where you are right now. So that could be some inspiring work, an inspiring place, an inspiring life story. What we're doing is welcoming in new media that could give us a change of track. And the next tool is called totally stoical. I really liked this idea of stoicism. I listened to Fly on the Wall podcast. I love that podcast so much. And they were talking, I think Dana Carvey was talking about stoicism. And one of the things in this practice of stoicism, which I guess Jerry Seinfeld is really into, don't make problems out of nothing. And any problems you can't solve, ignore them. And what I kind of already live by those things, but what this inspired in me was just having an awareness of the list of things you are worrying about is key to happiness. Like when we relate to outside pressure and when we relate to other people's ideas of happiness, we are not in alignment with what is true for us. So it's like you're going to end up in a loop of chasing something that you will never, ever reach. And so we really have to become acutely aware of what is true for us, even if it doesn't align with the outside terms of the world and culture. Otherwise, we're going to be reduced by those terms and we're going to continue to feel like empty inside. So net, are you currently being led by something that is deeper for you, that is deeper on a truer level for you? Or have you unconsciously subscribed to a cultural term for what happiness is and what success is that you are chasing without really checking if that's true, if that makes sense? So if you feel lonely, know that that feeling is valid. And that feeling is shared by so many other people. And I want to acknowledge that if you feel lonely in culture, it is super important to really check in and revisit your position on matters, on life, on what brings about happiness, what is important to you. It's really important for you to actualize your values in your everyday life, in your practices, and make them real. And in order to even do that, we have to know what they are. We have to use our values actively in our life and not just wish that other people had the same ones too. I think it's common to be afraid to say how we feel and live by how we feel. I think we're afraid to think differently than other people do. I think we're afraid to own things and focus on things that are not what everybody else focuses on. It's like there's this current that's kind of pushing us away from those things and just saying like, do what everybody else does. That's not popular. This is popular. But if you are not ignoring the things that truly don't matter to you, you're wasting your valuable, precious time. So this tool kind of went in like lots of different directions, but the core of it is really choose to ignore the things that don't matter to you and get good at that. It takes really deliberate intention because it's so strong. The conformity desire is so strong, especially with like really tight-knit communities and social media. It's like you might be pulled in this other direction so strongly, but like at the end of the day, it only matters if it makes you happy, truly. All right. And then the next tool is a little meditation I wanted to do together right now. You know, when I don't know if it's like a gymnast thing or maybe it's a dance thing, when people say lead from your core in like balance, this is a reminder, a gentle reminder to do that today, right now, as you move through the rest of your day. Let's just now remember a time energetically when we led from a feeling of health, joy, and optimism, just like mentally go into that feeling and that memory of what it was like to live in that energy. And if you are feeling off in any way, I also invite you to take one step right now to help yourself feel better. Just get right with yourself in one way. What is it? I really would like to take a break. I would really like to go somewhere pretty. I would really like to have a delicious coffee, whatever it is. This is just about remembering to have space in your day to tune in to this friend that is you, that is this other being riding along through life with you. So those are all of my tools. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And before I close, I want to thank all of my latest sponsors. Anyone who has the means to make a donation, please head to yaywithme.com and click donate, or you can head to Patreon. And anyone who does not have the means, I totally get it. If you could share this with someone, it could help. That helps me as well. So in closing, never forget, this is all changing. The world is by default impermanent. Like all things in the world are dissolving into elements, like the ocean is changing shells into sand. That we are always in flux. And when you course correct, it happens rapidly. And all of these tiny little tweaks create immediate effects, whether or not you can see them. So know that we're always going through this moving meditation and we're consciously changing exactly that direction we're heading in. So don't doubt for a second that it's not having an impact, whatever steps you are taking. And as you move through the world today, know that like the best way to receive something that you want, anything that you want, is to act in the way that demonstrates you deserve it and you are it. So just be there already. Be that person already, whatever it is you're looking for. Maybe that's fame or praise or success or friendship or adoration or laughs or connections. Be that person already. Be proud of you. Conduct yourself with integrity and be proud of the person you act as. And like a simple way to say this is treat others as you'd like to be treated and walk the walk of greatness and love. I think we can become more conscious about our energy and its ability to change life for the better. And then that just echoes outwards. So be that amazing light in the world and receive light. I send you my love and smile.